UCF fan. We go to Orlando, and in fact, at Burger U, Paul Catalina hosted Triple Option there earlier. He and Jack McKenzie are on location. He will join us near the end of the show. Paul, thank you for being a part of it. And, well, I know you've had a long day, the early flight, the early drive, and how's Orlando?
It's great. It's good to be back in my home state. It's raining right now, but that's Florida. It rains all the time. It's rained for longer in the last, we had a couple nights of rain, but thought I was in Texas for a second. I was like, oh, hey, we need this. And then realized I'm not at home, but it's been great. Burger U's awesome. As you can see behind me, this is a huge, place. It's right by, literally out the door to the right is the bounce house right there. And across the street is the basketball arena. So this is a really hopping spot to be right here. It's pretty much on UCF's campus. Really awesome spot.
Paul, what would have been your impression? I don't know the last time you would have been in that area, but now, with UCF in the mix, and that's going to be a regular, visit for a lot of people in Big 12 country. What are your thoughts on just what you've seen, the campus, and just kind of all the setup, if you will?
It's awesome. When I left here, I moved, to Texas 18 years ago. UCF had not started to do all the things that they've done yet. It was all in the long-term plans, but this university in this area has exploded. The university's bought up so much land, and it's a very sprawling campus. It's amazing what they do. It's beautiful. Big 12 fans are going to love coming here. The stadium, I've just seen it from the outside, looks great. This area around the stadium is really awesome. There's shops and, there's a Barnes and Nobles and there's coffee shops and all these things around here. So they've done a great job. This is certainly Power 5 level already. And it's way different than I remember. I came to visit a friend here. I was at FSU in 2001. This is not the same place that I visited then. Not even close.
All right, Paul, let's get to the game itself. And we'll have you on again later, and you have the show tomorrow, full throttle, 3 until 6, and also a part of the pregame with us and postgame. Do you think, and we don't know the status of Blake Shapen, and it may not matter, but at times when a team is so down deep in the barrel because of getting their basically, soul taken away from them by Texas and where they are at 1-3. They do have the cavalry. There's players coming back, whether it's Shapen a part of that or not. Can you see them with their backs against the wall just saying, let's go full throttle? Or are you still worried about whether they have that kind of energy?
I just don't know if they have that kind of energy. Although, look, UCF has issues right now. So does Baylor. I think this is going to be who has the least amount of issues. So, if they couldn't get fired up for some of the games that they've had, or they couldn't put it together, or they don't have the confidence to sustain things, and we haven't seen anything offensively from this team that leads me to believe that even they're going to have a great day, and UCF would have to have a really bad day for them to really gain yards. And I know that the UCF's not got the best defense, but I don't know. I've got to see it first before I can start speculating on what they can do down the line. But look, if you have an opportunity here, it's going to be a lot like the Texas Tech game. That 2013 team is coming back to the to the bounce house tomorrow to be honored, and they beat Baylor. So maybe you can get them kind of thinking that this is their day, like Tech and Pat Mahomes last year.
Can you tell that there's an excitement there on campus or around town? And I know it's very much a tourist town because of the amusement parks and all that, but can you get a sense of the area that you're in that, hey, there's a Big 12 game, the first ever, and it's a big deal for the Knights and all of that? Is there a feel in the air, if you will, out there?
Oh yeah, everywhere you look, there's a Big 12 sign somewhere. You can't look around. Out the window, I can see to my left here, there's a welcome to Orlando, Kansas State, and they're not even coming. Who knows when they're going to be here based on the schedule and how it's going to work out. But they're all fired up about it. It's certainly, there's palpable. We talked to people earlier that are so excited about the Big 12 and, honestly thrilled to leave the AEC. They already encountered some really nice Big 12 fans. So, I think that the fans here they are fired up. Excuse me. Sorry.
How much would you say if Blake Shapen does play, would he be worth as far as points?
I would say, I think he's worth a couple of touchdowns for sure, which they haven't done. I just, if he plays, then my whole opinion about this is different. It's, you try to, translate, we wind up speaking pretty fluent coach when we're in this business and you follow a coach for a long time. Matt Rule, I could always figure out if a guy was not going to play or not. He didn't really hide that around. Bryles was a little bit more difficult, but with Dave Aranda, usually when a guy's going to straight up play, he just says, yes, he's going to play and doesn't worry about the rest of it. Day to day just is the most ambiguous thing you can say about a guy, although it's better than what he was saying when he said that Blake wasn't going to play. So it's just hard for me to understand how, if he's day to day, okay, he could play, but how effective can he be if he's not all the way back, if they're running him out there at 80, 90%?
All right, let's get straight to it. Burger U right there off the campus at UCF. There is a burger on the menu called the Hangover Repair. I don't think you had to have that today. Will you need that by sometime tomorrow?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope that I've grown up, but since my wife is coming tomorrow morning, probably not. So she is coming on this trip. So I better be in, like straight up and down when we have to go pick her up at the airport.
Okay,
so
you're on camera. Look into the camera, and I'm going to ask you that again. Will you need the Hangover Repair at some point this weekend?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All
probably.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. We're at a place called Bounce House Social tomorrow too. So that place is really cool. So I can't wait to see that one. And we've got Storm Johnson going to be on site, confirmed. So.
Former running back, right? UCF. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you're going to do 3 to 6 tomorrow. We'll have Paul back on again in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll get more into UCF and Baylor and much more. Paul, looks great. Great setup. Tell him thank you as well from us, and have a great rest of the afternoon.
All right, guys. Talk to you in a little bit.
Paul Catalina on 365 Sports from Orlando, from Burger U. What a great name of a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun opportunity. Glad that he and the guys are getting to go out there, and hopefully that, I can or you can or we can at some point in time as well. It'd be nice to see some of the places that we haven't seen yet, but I hope that they enjoy that and have some great broadcast out there. But, I do think when it comes to him talking about the energy, okay, everybody watching last week who had no idea of watching Baylor in Texas were like, what is up with this Baylor team? Why do they look so weird? And I'm more kind of getting numb to it now at this point, so I don't even know if I'm judging it correctly. I do think we sometimes don't give them enough credit for when they do have it, and that we just blanket statement, they just don't ever have it. But I do think they had it against Utah for a little while. They tried to have it, in a couple of these games. It's just you can't sustain it, or you have it and then you just get punched in the mouth a couple times and you can't, react to it. So I don't think it's that they're entirely void of it, but I don't think they've either, put it together enough to show that and to mostly show that in a result. I think that's where it comes a missing, because as soon as you lose, it doesn't matter how much energy you show that. People just wash that away. Like, oh, you weren't ready. So I do think we have to give them more credit than just they don't have anything whatsoever. And they never, they've had moments, but no, they have to string it together. And this weekend will be fascinating, because we'll know, they're either going to have the energy to play on the road, which is a whole different animal than playing at home, or they're going to be their zombie characters, and that's going to be evident, and UCF will blow them out of that building. So this is a very interesting game from that standpoint of their first time on the road and what those energy levels are going to look like and what that attitude, that's the word I'm starting to focus on, what that attitude is going to look like. And if they can't run the football, then, like I said yesterday, that's going to be red flag central, because it's one thing to not run against Texas. It's one thing to not run against Utah. All due respect to the Knights, but if they have a weakness that's the most glaring, it is their run defense.
At least it has been.
It has been so far. And K-State, DJ Giddens had an all-time performance against them last week. I mean, nearly 300 yards total by himself, 200 on the ground, 3 touchdowns. So, I'm not saying they have a DJ Giddens, but they should have some combination of guys that if they can run the football, they should be able to run the football. And if they can't, maybe UCF just had a great game, but I think that also spells doom for Baylor's, whole mentality about running the football.
I think if Baylor doesn't come out with their hair on fire, and if they somehow can contain UCF early on, want to get that game into the second quarter, into the second half, if they don't, and they come out and they're not playing with all hell bent for election, it could get ugly, because the bounce house is going to be lit. It's already lit in the game. Nobody even in the stadium other than perhaps workers and volunteers and getting ready for Saturday's game. But I think if they could weather the storm, now whether they can or not remains to be seen. And if they don't run the football, there's a problem, because that's what they're supposed to do no matter who they're playing, even if it's Utah and Texas. And you're right, they haven't had that big moment. And with the touches of Reese, or now Neighbors as a running back, and Dom Richardson in and out, and who else they might try to feed the football to.
And Timmy McClain, a lot was made when John Rice Plumlee got hurt, but Timmy McClain was the big transfer from USF and definitely got into action way quicker than he could have ever anticipated, because Plumlee went down so quickly. But, I mean, he's pretty good now. Like, I don't think that, it's like your typical backup. Like, this dude's played a lot of football and had a really good game last week in some ways for UCF, and it was more through the air than it was through the ground. And so that's something they're going to have to be prepared for, because this isn't just, just some dude. Like,
no.
It's not Plumlee, but it's a different kind of attack, and it's one that can be, still equally as dangerous in so many ways. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this game and all the little parts of it. It's going to be fascinating.
In my opinion, UCF, and we'll talk more about the game at 3:45. We'll have Tate on, Matt Tate on, join us about Kansas and Texas. He covers KU. UCF, out of the 4 teams that entered the conference, no matter what it might mean to Houston or even Cincinnati or Brigham Young, to me,
BYU.
That's $1. BYU, for me, for UCF, and in fact, UT Parking in the chat room, UCF is big time now. This was the one thing missing from them, was to be a part of a Power 5 conference. They've had some huge wins over the years. Beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl back in 13 after the 13 season. So, yeah, this
won the
is
national
a
title
big deal.
with Scott Frost. Asterisk. But still, you know what I mean, though? That was...
But they ran the table, beat Auburn in the bowl game.
They went undefeated,
right?
and they threw up the mythical national championship, and we laugh at it, but, we still remember that, right? That's something we now talk about, even if it's jokingly. Remember UCF won the national title. They've gone through a plethora of coaches and have found success, and now they landed on a guy who's given the level where they're coming from, how are you getting better than Gus Malzahn? To be able to enter with him as your head coach, it's another part of that you go wow, they really are pretty well built for what's upcoming. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun atmosphere. They're going to be jacked up, and Baylor's going to need to be jacked up, but not hyperventilate either, with all of these young players who are hitting the road for the first time. That's part of this, is you hear all about the young players. Well, if they're struggling at home, what is it going to be like, at the bounce house for the very first time? So, yeah, I think UCF is a great addition, and right there in the mix as far as that tier B right now, behind Texas and Oklahoma, basically. And that K-State game didn't look exactly like that score looked. They took them into the fourth quarter, and then K-State just able to pull away, obviously, that big rushing attack. But yeah, this is going to be fun.